Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Aurora City Council's Committee of the Whole meeting. It is Monday, February 8th, 2016. Ms. Martin, please call the roll.
Ms. Varner?
Present.
Ms. Grandillo?
Here.
Mr. Hattrich?
Here.
Mr. Horvat? Here. Mr. Kovach?
Present.
Mr. Cudley?
Here?
Ms. McDougall? Mr. Baca? Mr. Wolf?
Here.
All right, thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes for the January 25th, 2016 meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, comments, corrections?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Horvat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for Ms. Martin.
Yes.
I'm trying to find it, so Ms. Martin, just bear with me. It has to do with the last part of the meeting under the Committee of the Whole. It's on page 4.
Okay.
Okay? It says Ms. McDougall stated or said that regrets that Councilman Grandillo's not there. She said she did some research to find out what cities, where I'm trying to get to my point. She said other than Cleveland Heights, there is no other city in Ohio. Was that misstated?
No, that is what was said.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions, comments? All in favor of adopting those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Those minutes are adopted. Under new business, we have several items. The first is item A, employees generally. Do I have a motion to forward this for action this evening?
So second.
Mayor, do you want to address this, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This does two things. It corrects the proposed salary for Leah Salura, the Assistant Finance Director, which was correct in the very first employees generally you had on the new budget, but when we reran it with all the other figures, the program didn't work right. Second, this adds 2 under part-time police, a patrol officer, and a dispatcher. Thank you.
Any comments, questions for the mayor? Mr. Hattrich?
I have a comment for the chief. You have to come up, right? I just
Well-
want,
Chief, you need to
okay,
go
sorry.
ahead, because we have to have you on the record.
You there now?
Yes, I'm there.
I'd just like to comment on the fact that you sent 2 memorandums on the 2 part-time policemen you're hiring.
One part-time policeman and 1 part-time dispatcher.
Okay. But I just want to let you know that I, as a councilman, really appreciate that you give us some background on who these people are. It kind of opens our eyes a little bit more and gives us some more information. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. There was one that, for the purchase of the vehicles, that the memo actually didn't make it. I made you guys a copy and put it on your, in front of your seats there.
Got it, yeah. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else, Mr. Hattrich?
No, sir, thank you.
All right, that's it. Okay, we have a motion to approve and forward this to council for action this evening.
So
Seeing no
moved.
further,
Second.
we already have that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B is a repeal for a resolution 2015-166 and replacing with new revised agreement. Mr. Pirro?
Mr. Chairman, this is our CHIP agreement with Portage County. There was a new, council passed a resolution last year authorizing a 2-year agreement. This new agreement is a 3-year agreement, and the reason I'm asking you there are some changes in it, but the point of the program remains the same. The reason we have a new resolution is because, number one, it's a 3-year agreement, and number two, typically we have in our resolutions that we're asking approval to enter into a contract substantially the same as what we've attached. Because there are a number of changes, grammatical and otherwise, in my opinion, it's not substantially the same, it's different. Although the point of the program is very much the same. I just felt more comfortable having you pass a new resolution.
Right. Thank you.
Hope that explains it.
Ms. Barner?
Yes, thanks, Councilman Cudley. I guess this would be a question to Mr. DePera, our law director. Do we have a percentage of how many people actually used this, or how much it's used in our city? I mean, I think it's a fantastic program, and I see the qualifications for it. I'd just be curious of how many people qualify and how many used it.
We'll go to, do you have the answer?
You know, I don't have the answer. I know I worked with the finance department on that. I'm not sure Mr. Clymer would have that yet, but I know it's used on a regular basis. I just don't have any numbers.
All right, thank you. Mr. Clymer, do you have that information available? If not, could you get it for us?
Not with exact certainty. I'll get it for you and
Okay,
get it out to you guys.
right, thank you. Okay, so we'll get that answer.
Thank
Okay,
you. Can I
Ms.
ask one more question?
Sure can,
Councilman Cudley?
yes.
In regards to that, and I don't know if this would be your question, so obviously it would be how much it's used, the percentage, and I guess I was just curious, I know they would apply, I would assume, for this as well. And if they do have that many applications, is it used? Because if so, you know, really get the word out there, being that we have this program, have more people using it if it's available. I mean, I know there's a guideline that not everybody can use it. Thank you.
Mr. Baca? Mr. Baca, go ahead.
To answer Ms. Barnard's question, it's used quite heavily in the Jog Lake area. I would say we average maybe 3 or 4 a year.
Great.
Yeah, so, and I just picked up another packet and sent it to somebody else. So yes, it's used. Out of the things that come out of Portage County, this is probably the only thing that I really like. So, and I would support this heavily. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up, we need all of you to work to find residents who may be eligible and in need of this program. Because actually, I think we have 2 months to have some applications come in to use up some leftover money in our particular allocation. So anything you can do to cultivate actively folks who could use this, please, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wolf?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along the lines of that, I would just ask, I have some questions for Mr. Clymer with respect to this program. I would just ask that anybody on council, if they've got questions, so that he's not kind of hunting and pecking, submit them in writing via
Right.
email, so that he's got it. He knows exactly what he needs to get for us.
Right.
I'm gonna wind up sending him some questions too. So.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you, gentlemen. The administration is asking that we forward this to council for action this evening.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item C is an agreement with Stantec Consulting Services. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is to get an actual engineered design for stormwater work that we want to do on Sherwood. This has actually been a problem for a number of years. We've been looking at this particular location for, since I came on board, to try to figure out how to address it. We have a concept plan, and we need now to have the actual engineering work done, and that's what this is for. And it is in the budget.
Ms. Barner?
I'm sorry, Councilman Mr. Cudley. I just want to thank the mayor and Mr. True. Obviously, Sherwood is part of my ward, and had gone to visit to a few residents who were affected, not only from July 14th, but many other times this has occurred on Sherwood and Robin Hood. So I just want to say thank you. I support this, and if there's anything I could do additionally in that ward, please let me know. But thank you for doing your diligence on this.
Thank you. The administration is asking to have this forward for action this evening.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item D is an amendment of the Aurora Codified Chapter 153 Division of Parks and Recreation. Mr. DePiero.
Mr. Chairman, this resolution, as well as some other ones we'll be sending forth, is a housekeeping item that resulted from council eliminating the various committees in favor of the committee of the whole. So you'll see this and others come forward just to kind of clean up some of the ordinances.
Thank you. And we're just asking that this, have a motion to forward this to our regular council agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forward this to council's regular agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item E is a lease agreement for a 2016 copier replacement. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We have copiers that, the leases for which expire on a rotating basis. We also have had multiple companies with which we've been working. We are trying to get all our copiers with one company and then ideally get us to one lease period rather than having these rotating leases. My executive assistant, Tracy Humbert, did extensive work on this along with Vicki Harris and looked at two companies that came in with quotes. One, Lake Business Products, the other, Mirafex Ace Business Solutions. And the Ace proposal was the best, and we even held out for yet a follow-up quote from Lake Business Products. But the fact is, the machine that they use is just more expensive than the machine that we can get from Ace, and it is working very well, so that's our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this, can somebody just tell me where this copier is located, where it's being used?
Mayor?
Let's see, this is, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wolf, this is in the Parks and Rec Department.
Okay, can I just, some of the newer copiers, just so that we know, and some of the newer copiers have hard drives, and it'll actually record images. So going forward, we just probably want to make sure that anything coming out of HR, if we've got copiers up there that we're going to turn over or replace, or anything that might be housing sensitive information. This may be one, because we may have scanned credit card information or whatever else from residents. We'll want to work with whoever the vendor was that was supplying to make sure that those hard drives get wiped before we return the machines to them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And administration is looking for a motion to forward this to council for its first reading this evening.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forward this to council for its first reading. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Letter F under new business is a service agreement for B&C Communications. And Chief?
Thank you. Members of council, B&C Communications is our annual maintenance and service agreement for our radios, two-way radios in our dispatch center. They provide us a service as well as the service department and the fire department, and that is the annual maintenance agreement for that.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the chief? All right, and it's being asked that this be forwarded to council's regular agenda.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to forward council's regular agenda. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Chief, you probably should have stayed there.
Yeah. Our last new business item is the purchase of 3 Ford Explorer Interceptors. Chief?
Thank you. Members of council, we're asking to purchase 3 new vehicles with our cycle. We try to cycle out the vehicles with the highest mileage or that are prone to problems. And this year, we're cycling out 3 of them. The state bid price that we were provided from Statewide Ford, did win the state bid, but after the trade-in value of the cars that we're trading in, Liberty Ford and Solon was able to beat them by, as you can see, almost $15,000. So we're requesting to purchase 3 new vehicles through Liberty Ford for a cost of $58,395.
Any questions? Mr. Horvat?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, how many cars will we have left at the end of this, when we get rid of these 3?
We have 12 marked cars all the time.
Okay, so how many cars will we have left?
12.
We'll have 12.
We'll have
after this.
12 marked vehicles, and then we have 5 or 6 unmarked vehicles.
Okay. No, I think you're missing my question. We're replacing these with Ford Explorers.
Oh, correct.
Okay.
How many sedans will we have
Yeah.
left? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
3, if I'm not mistaken. We
Oh,
should have
okay.
3 left.
Oh,
Maybe more than that, no, we would have 6 left, because
Okay.
we only have 3 Explorers, so. We have a Expedition and a Chevy Tahoe, so that's where I'm getting confused.
and
So-
that's working, and these are working out better than the sedans.
Absolutely, yeah, they sit up higher off the ground, and with all that equipment on, trying to get up out of a sedan is much more difficult than trying to get out of a SUV, and the equipment storage in the rear is much better too, as well as they handle much better in the snow and winter weather.
And it seems like all the cities are switching over now anyway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Mr. Baca?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, you have a couple of the Crown Vics left, I understand. Did you paint one of them black?
Yes,
Was that the gray one?
yes, we had it painted by Mako.
Okay, good job. I had one done too, and the paint
It had a
fell
little
off.
bit of rust on it and stuff, and we used that car for the K-9 vehicle,
That's
and
what I
that's why
figured.
we.
The first time I've ever seen it. I applaud you on your automobile choice, because the Explorers are the way to go. The thing I'm kind of concerned about is, and I've discussed this with you before, and most cities are doing this, and I think it's, I don't know, painting them all black. I just think that black and white shows authority. When you paint them black, it's hard to see them when they're coming. Are we trying to hide from the populace? Or are we trying to sneak up on the criminals? I don't understand it. I know if you paint them white, it costs a little bit more. But California Highway Patrol just paints one door white. I mean, just something white on it. You don't even do the roof. But that's mine. That's my opinion on it. It's your ball game. You can do whatever you want. But I think black and white shows authority. It really shows police authority. Thank you.
Any comment, Chief?
No, truthfully, I left it up to the guys to choose. I thought it was a minor decision, and I let them choose the design and the color.
Thank you.
But I agree, it does stand out a little bit more, but
Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you, Mr. Cully. Chief, is there a mileage limit that you look for to reduce or to exchange the cars, replace
Chief?
those cars?
no, it varies. One of them has relatively, I don't want to say low miles, between 60 and 70,000, but it's considered a problematic car, according to the city mechanic. He said to trade that car in as soon as possible, because we're just dumping money into it. They're all out of warranty, but I believe one has about 100,000 miles, one has 80 or 90, and then the other one has 60 or 70. And it's not an old car, but it's problematic, so that's, in short, that's the answer.
Okay. I would imagine, due to the fact that these cars are idling mainly out the whole shift, that's, you really can't look so much at the mileage itself as a totality, because the engine's running almost constantly.
Yeah, we do try to limit the engine idle hours, because that does get counted towards your service agreement, your warranty with the vehicle. But they do stay idling during extreme cold temperatures. Like now, they're probably idling, but we try to keep a close eye on it and don't let them idle when it's not necessary.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Administration is asking for a motion to forward this to council for action this evening.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded to forward this to council for action this evening. Seeing no further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. That brings us to the end of our new business, and we do have one miscellaneous item that was carried over from our last meeting, and that is on amending council rules to allow citizens' comments. Just a couple of, one note of information. At our last meeting, we voted to postpone this to tonight's meeting. And going back and seeing how we handled that situation, the one council person wanted to change their vote, and which is permissible to do. We just need to make sure that we follow the procedure, because we have not really done that a lot. And you are allowed to change your vote, but it has to be by the consensus of the council or a vote of council. and we didn't do that, but that was my error. And so in the future, just so that you know that, that's how we need to operate when we want to have someone change their vote.
Just as long as I know it was your error, not mine.
Yeah. And it also depends on when the request is made. If the chair announces that the motion passes, then there has to be a reconsideration of it because we've already announced it to be formal, so. And if we're going to operate by the rules, that's what we need to do. Mr. Horvat?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was that person you were referring to. And
I didn't want to say that, Mr.
everybody else
Horvat,
knows because
but, okay.
you kept looking over here. And the reason why I did that is because I just felt that Ms. McDougal needed some time to, get ducks in a row or do whatever she needed to. Unfortunately, she's not here.
Right.
So I'm prepared to move ahead with this.
Okay. Everybody should have received a memo that I put together. After our last meeting, I did request the clerk's office, and Ms. Martin did do some research for us, and I compiled that research into the chart that was provided to you, attached to my memo. At our last meeting, information was given, and I'm not sure whether the council person was caught off guard a little bit or couldn't find the information that had been ascertained. But putting all that information together, I think it tells a whole different story from what council had information on that evening. There are councils that have committee of the whole, and they do allow for citizens' comments, but you'll notice that the majority of them meet on a separate night from council meetings. And that's something, Mr. Baca, we used to do a long time ago. We had a work session on one Monday, and then the council meeting met, the second meeting of the month. And then those that do allow it at the discretion of the chair. So in my memo, I stated that the information provided for us at our last meeting really didn't substantiate necessarily making a change. But again, as my role as chairman of the whole, I understand that there were some council people that had concerns. And so I was making the recommendation that we do amend council rules to allow for, and I'll read it, citizens' comments during the committee of the whole meeting may be permitted subject to the discretion of the chair. And that would be a motion that I would make.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Baca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You basically just answered the question of why we should have that on there. You just, a few minutes ago, said that councilmen were kind of questioning and weren't sure, didn't know, whatever. So how can we have a citizen ask us something if we're not even sure what we're getting?
Right.
So therefore, I'm going to stay with my original thought of not having citizens speak at all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baca. Mr. Horvat.
Mr. Chairman, when you put this together, did you have any input or thought on a time frame, like if there is time left or not time left during a meeting?
I think that when you start to use discretion, you have to be very careful. I think that if you're if you are what I would say free with discretion, once you raise somebody's expectations, then you kind of set a precedent, and you're going to have to go with that every single meeting. And I'm afraid the way that we try to manage our meeting when we sit down on a Thursday afternoon and we take a look at what has been submitted to council, we really try to effectively set the time of the meeting to take care of the business, allow time for the transition between the committee of the whole meeting and the council meeting, so that we're not calling people, to come here from work at an early time. We try to, take that in consideration, so that the meeting is really geared to the amount of information that we think is going to be discussed at that meeting. So I would imagine, if there is an unusual amount of people in the audience because they're here for a certain issue that's come up, I think certainly, discretion could be used in that type of situation. So I think depending on circumstances. whether we would have that discretion used or not. I don't know if that answers your question,
It
Mr.
does,
Horvath, or
thank
not.
you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Ms. Martin, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Varner?
No.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hatchridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovach?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes,
Mr. Vaca?
and that motion passes. So we have amended rules, council rules, or we have amended the, excuse me, we have passed a motion to move this on to city council for its approval. Okay, getting ahead of myself here. But the committee of the whole has approved that for recommendation. So that will go on tonight's agenda. So we'll need a motion to forward this to council for action this evening.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded to forward this to council for action this evening. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I would oppose.
I oppose.
Ms. Martin, please call the roll.
Ms. Varner?
No.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath? Hatchridge, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovach?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes,
Mr. Vaca?
No.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
and that motion passes. So this has been forwarded to council for action this evening. That brings us to the end of our meeting, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you.